Good morning, everybody. Today I'm here to tell you all about the Dragonlord, which is a alternate type of fighter. Now, the fighter is a weapon specialist, can either specialize in a specific weapon type, or can make quite a formidable tank, but the Dragonlord is actually sort of like a battlefield master. You might be familiar with sort of like the tactician-styled fighter, or the battle master out of 5th edition. It's very similar to that, all about getting on the battlefield and using their tactical abilities. So, Dragonlord in more of title than just pure draconic inspiration. However, they do get some dragon-themed moves, which are quite cool, and honestly, they're actually a little bit simpler than regular fighter, a little bit easier to get started with, and quite strong. So let's go over Dragonlord and what makes it tick. First is the stats. Dragonlords are a lot simpler than the regular fighter in that almost every single Dragonlord is going to be a strength-based character. There's reasons as to why you might play a different type of Dragonlord, wisdom or charisma or something like that, but 99% of the time you play strength-based Dragonlord. You want to be a two-handed fighter Dragonlord, a dual-wielding Dragonlord, a single weapon fighting Dragonlord, doesn't matter, you're going to be strength almost all of the time. There are some things you can do outside of that, but this is like pretty much all you need. Then Constitution. You need Constitution so you don't die. That's pretty rad. I love not dying. And then Intelligence, just enough so you don't lose out on skill points. And that's it. Dexterity, who cares? If you get a hit, you'll heal it. Wisdom, you need a little bit. Maybe it's nice for your will save so you don't get crowd controlled, but other than that, doesn't matter. Charisma, again, who cares? I don't need to talk to people. I kill them with my powerful Dragonlord abilities. Now, one of the things that separates a Dragonlord from a regular fighter is you're going to see this kind of like cool green glow around my feet, and that is the Dragonlord aura. So regular fighters get bonus feats as they level up on every even level. Dragonlords also get this. However, 3 of their feats are replaced. Instead of gaining a feat on 1, 8, and 16, they instead gain an aura. And this aura applies passively to you and all of your allies. The stats on the aura are also unique. You get to choose them and customize them to make the right aura for your character. So in this build you're going to see here, I'm going to be making the aura specific to what would be the best for a melee character, but there's a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do, whether you want to be protecting your allies, defending against spells, or doing individual certain things. But I'll be going through the best part. Now, one of the reasons why this is interesting is because with Fighter, you get that extra customization element, right? You get 3 more feats. With this character, you get the customization element as a passive aura, which means no think, just smash. It's nice. So if you want to play a character that is no think, just smash, Dragonlord might be for you. As far as a lot of your key stats go, you'll notice you don't have any spell points or ki. You don't need that, doesn't have to do with smashing. This character will have a reasonable amount of armor class because you're going to be wearing either heavy or medium armor, so you're going to be beating people up. And then again, you don't have to worry about pretty much any of the spell stats or things like that. As we look into the skills, something I forgot to mention was race. Your race doesn't matter, play whatever you want. I put Dragonborn as the build here because it gets a lot of strength, and you're a Dragonborn Dragonlord, it just makes sense. But if you want to be something else, if you want to be a human, if you want to be a dwarf, doesn't matter, max out your strength, all of them are good. Your gnomes and your halflings, obviously since they get a minus to their strength, will be a little bit harder to play Dragonlord, but Dragonlord is so good, it doesn't terribly matter. So pick whichever you think is cool. I've done Warforged Dragonlord, I've done Azamar Dragonlord, I've done Human Dragonlord. Dragonlord's just good, you can't make any bad decisions. Anyways, skills. Tumble and use Magic Device. Tumble allows you to move around in combat and dodge enemy attacks. Now, of course, I have a -2 here because my dexterity is so bad. However, as you level up, you'll get dexterity increasing effects. If you get buffs from an airship, these are things that can help give you these extra stats. As long as this number is positive, you can tumble to dodge attacks, which is why we're putting ranks into it. Tumbling is just really valuable in general as a melee character, as you can tumble in to make sure you dodge every attack as you're being hit, or if you take too many big hits, you can tumble backwards to get out of combat. So both of those things are good. And then use Magic Device is for using magical items. This is useful for either giving yourself extra protections or heals that you might not otherwise have access to, but most importantly, it's for being able to resurrect yourself and your allies as you get further on in the game. At the higher levels, you'll have enough use Magic Device to be able to use all resurrection magic, which is very, very handy. So even if you're somebody who plays, maybe you play mostly solo, but you bring a hireling with you, being able to resurrect your hireling is really nice, and no, I would not like to join a guild. The other skills don't terribly matter. If you're going to play single weapon fighter, make sure you put points into balance. You need to have at least 7 ranks in balance to be able to take single weapon fighting. And then if you have extra points, I mean, I guess you could do like jump maybe, intimidate, swim if you want to go fast. But overall, doesn't matter. None of these things really influence hitting people. Now, as far as your feats go, I want to talk about two things specifically. First is the auras. So the first aura we're going to pick up here is called Thraxada's Instinct. What this does is it gives you a morale bonus to your tactical DCs, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But this is a passive. I don't have to do anything. It just is always going. It gives me a +2. And you raise this number. So while this is only a +2, this number will actually increase as you get higher level. So it can increase to +3, +4, +5. And this applies to everyone. So that's really, really nice. Then also as a fighter, you get the basic fighter stuff like Second Wind, which is just a button you can press to heal yourself. In 5th edition D&D, Second Wind is 1d10 plus your level, and that's how much you heal for. So you roll a 10-sided dice, you get a 3, you're level 15, you add 15, boom, you healed for 18. In DDO, it's 50% of your life, which is significantly more. Additionally, once you're level 8 or higher, it just gives you a full cleanse, so it gets rid of all the negative effects on your character, so it is quite nice. As far as the rest of the feats go, this character is designed to be a two-handed fighter. We're putting on a big two-handed weapon and we're cleaving with our combat style here, grabbing two-handed fighting, which allows you to strike through. So whenever you attack, you're going to hit multiple enemies in front of you, and you get to add more of your strength onto your damage, so you get to kind of hit people even harder based on how strong you are. And then on top of that, we take some of the martial feats, power attack to give more damage while two-handed fighting, power critical to give even more critical damage, because your character will want to use a falchion for this build. It's the optimal weapon for a two-handed fighter here. But that being said, you have some flexibility. Greatsword is also good too, so you could go to Greatsword as well instead of just that. I wouldn't terribly recommend Great Axe, and you could pick some other weapons, but I designed this around slashing weapons. If you did want to use a different weapon, you could maybe go with a maul or something. But in general, Falchion and Greatsword are like standouts as doing much more damage, so I would recommend you go with that. Now, in a lot of other characters, I would immediately start talking about the spells, but I'm a Dragonlord. I don't have any spells. I have hit people with sword. So instead, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the aura by going into detail with the Enhancement Tree. So the Enhancement Trees here, you get 3 of them as a fighter, or a Dragonlord. You get the Dragonlord tree, which replaces the Kensai tree. And then you get Stalwart Defender like regular fighters, so you can be kind of tanky. But then instead of getting the Vanguard tree, which is the shield fighting tree, and I love the Vanguard tree, you get Ravager. Now, the reason why this is important is because Dragonlords are not proficient with shields. That's right. If you're a Dragonlord and you want to hit somebody with a shield or have a shield for defense, that doesn't work, which means your character is all about getting in there and attacking people. The best defense is a good offense, and that's pretty much how the Dragonlord is supposed to function. So, instead of having the Vanguard tree, they get the Ravager tree from Barbarian. That's right, so you can play kind of like a Barbarian Ravager. Now, several things in Barbarian Ravager actually work with Barbarian Rage, but for the fighter version, they don't. For example, this ability here, Visage of Terror, which you press a button and everything around you has to save or die. Well, guess what? This doesn't have a cost if you're playing as a fighter, because there's no rages. Also, a few enhancements are tweaked here and there. They're going to fit more into the fighter aesthetic, but overall, really, really cool design. However, we won't be playing as a Ravager fighter here. However, if you're listening and you're like, ooh, that sounds cool, I can make people like be afraid of me and then they die, that's awesome. If you do that, it's Intimidate based, so that's important, where you need to actually put points into your Intimidate. We won't be doing that on this character because in this, we're going to be going for more of the damage route, but again, that is an option. Now, back to the auras. In the Dragonlord tree, you will see that at the bottom here along the cores, you'll have like Draconic Arms that says passive. The bonus of each of your Draconic auras is increased by 1. You will get a total of 3 auras as you level up. One that gives you tactical DCs, one that gives you damage, and one that gives you melee power. As you put points in the Dragonlord tree, your auras are going to get +1 here, +1 here, +1 here. I don't think you get +1 here. Nope, +0 here. And then an extra +2 up here, for a total of +5, meaning your Thraxada's Instinct, which gives you +2 morale bonus to your tactical DCs, this is actually +7, which is a really big number. So, tactical DCs, what are they? Excellent question. So let's talk about combat and how your combat actually works. Tactical DCs are for your tactical abilities. As a fighter, you get 2 abilities for free, Trip and Sunder. So if I mouse over the Sunder ability here, it gives me the text box, it tells me the cooldown, what the target is, what the saving throw is, and then the description of the ability. So Sunder is a melee attack that reduces the target's armor class by 10% and their fortification by 25% for 6 seconds. Fortification is they're basically the resistance to critical hits, and armor class is your ability to hit them. You have to hit their armor class, so if you reduce their armor class, they're easier to hit, which is nice. However, it has a save here. It says that save 24. Those are your tactical DCs. So the aura around my feet, because I get +2 from the aura, and then I have an extra +2 on bonus, this is giving me +4 to all of my tactical DCs, meaning that the enemies have a harder time resisting my effects. But we get more than just Sunder. We also get Trip, allowing you to knock down all enemies in front of you, again with that tactical DC right there. Now, if you happen to get generic or like specific DC effects, let's say you get an item that says Shattering, it gives bonus Sunder DCs, or Vertigo, it gives bonus Tripping DCs, that actually works with this aura here, allowing you to knock down enemies really, really easily, which is a very, very powerful offensive tool. But the Dragonlord also gets special abilities out of their Enhancement Tree, specifically an ability here called Dragon's Roar, which I'm going to pull out of the enhancements and show you here. Dragon's Roar is basically you roar at an enemy, and instead of like breathing a breath weapon like a dragon would do, you're imitating a dragon, so you just have like a shout that kind of like stuns enemies basically. This ability is extremely powerful. It is like a minor stun, they call it a daze. Basically the enemy is stunned and they can't do anything, and you can hit them. It says that the affected enemies have a 25% chance to break out of the daze. They actually don't break out of the daze, which is kind of fun. So you just get to hit people for free, and this works on pretty much everything. As you get higher level though, it gets improved into a cower. When enemies are cowering, you do extra damage to them, and they can't attack you at all, which is really, really nice. So to give you a quick demo about how this actually functions, if I come around the corner here, we're going to see some kobolds, so they're going to kind of rush up on me. And then what we do is we use the roar, and in doing so, all 3 monsters are now stunned. Again, I can use this whenever it comes off of cooldown. It has a 20-second cooldown, and then when they come up on me, maybe I want to trip them, I can use my trip attack. One of the cool things about using a two-handed sword is I have strike through, which means I hit multiple enemies. So when I use my trip, it actually hits all the enemies. Similarly, if I use my Sunder attack, it hits everybody as well. So keep that in mind. Even though you might not think Trip is actually the most useful ability, or maybe you've played another character like a rogue or a monk and you found your Trip never working, these abilities all take your strength into account. DC 10 plus strength, 10 plus strength, this one 10 plus strength and highest of strength and charisma plus stunning. So all of this is based off of strength. So your strength stat here gives you bonus to your DCs, which is nice, but it's also how you interact with enemies. You see, the way that your attack rolls actually work is you attack a monster, you have this bonus here, you add this bonus to a 20-sided dice, which will roll on screen, and when that 20-sided dice rolls, you add this number to it, and you're trying to beat your opponent's armor class. So if my opponent has a 26 armor class, I need to roll a 9 or higher to be able to hit them every time I swing my sword. And once I actually hit them, I then deal my damage, which is 2d6 plus 16 here. So this is how much damage I actually get to add on, plus anything else I happen to have on the weapon. So for example, I have a shock weapon, which is 1d6 or like 1 to 6 points of electricity, so that will get added on top of this number. So you just gotta keep that in mind. So every time I attack an enemy, that's great. These numbers, not only do they come from like the weapon and equipment, they come from my strength. So I get to add my strength to my hit bonus, and I get to add a multiple of my strength to my damage because I'm two-handed fighting. On top of that, we can ramp up these numbers even more. By grabbing Power Attack, it reduces my chance to hit by a little bit, but it really puts up my damage all the way up to now plus 26 damage per attack. So as a result, with these two things, to actually hit monsters, I want to get my attack bonus as high as possible, ideally by putting on equipment that increases my attack bonus. So maybe you pick up an item that gives you accuracy, but also increasing your strength generally will do that. But now I'm hitting the kobolds, I'm doing like 30 damage a strike, I'm hitting multiple at the same time. These guys don't even stand a chance against me. So, TLDR, go into combat, get into guys, trip them, use your dragon shout, slap them with your sword, move on to the next pack. Fighting with a Dragonlord is fairly simple and fairly straightforward, and if you want to make it so you hit more often, if you see misses or grazing hits, you want to work on your attack bonus, which means getting items with accuracy, as well as increasing your strength. And if you want to kill people faster, you want to work on your damage bonus, which means you want to get items that literally have the affix damage, which applies to your weapon damage, getting a better weapon, and working on your strength. Remember I said everything just kind of comes from the strength? But actually, There's one more thing we're going to talk about that comes from strength, and that's this ability here called Might in Order. This is a trance. It comes from your Dragonlord tree, and trances are a special mechanic where they get to add extra stats to your damage. So usually, let's say you're playing as a paladin. Paladins also use their strength to hit people, but they have charisma to help power some of their special abilities. The charisma is useful for a lot of things, and they get an ability called Divine Might that also lets them add some of their charisma onto their damage, so they can use their strength to damage and a little bit of their charisma to add on to the damage. And that's cool. It gives you kind of a way to kind of tie everything together. So do you know what stat we get to add on extra to add damage on a Dragonlord? That's right, the strength stat. Why would we add a separate stat that isn't our highest when we could just basically increase the amount of stats we get from our strength? So what happens is you press Might in Order, and then all of a sudden I get to add an extra half of my strength bonus here, so +6, onto my weapon. So I press Might in Order, and then boom, I get +3 on my hit and +3 on my damage. +3 might not sound like a lot, but when you've got like 100 strength and you're adding 45, now I can press a button for +22 on my hit bonus and +22 damage. Yeah, I'm gonna do that every time. But that also adds to my tactical DCs. My character is fresh out of the airship. I just made a brand new one, and my save is 28, which will work on every single monster I will encounter in level 7 quests. So this character, without having any special gear, any customization other than just the base build, and I'm able to hit every single monster with this Dragon's Roar without having to worry about it. Dragonlord basically builds itself, which is really nice. Get strength, get con, go crazy. Now we're going to do a bit of a deeper dive on the enhancements trees here, just to make sure you understand exactly what's happening inside of them. The Dragonlord tree, at the bottom here, you get an ability called Draconic Arms. This gives you an Imbue. An Imbue is a way to enchant your weapon to deal additional damage. So this is like a toggle, you just have to turn it on, and it adds damage based on your dragon soul. The build here, you're playing as a Black Dragonborn, so I picked Black Dragon because it fit thematically, and it gives you acid damage on all your attack, which is basically not resisted. You increase the damage on these attacks by getting melee power, which is the stat that increases your melee damage, and on top of that, it just gets more damage as you level up. You get more damage here, as like it says, Imbue dice, that will increase the power of your Draconic Arms, so this is going to get more powerful. On the left side of the tree here, you have resistance based on your element. So I get to pick up resistance based on my Draconic Soul, and then also absorption based on my Draconic Soul. So as a result, you just take a lot less acid damage, which is nice, as well as getting a huge amount of extra hit points once you get to the top. Then we have the tactical line, which kind of looks like a little football diagram, but basically these increase your tactical DCs with all of your tactical abilities, so your Trip, your Sunder, and the like. However, once we get to the higher levels, Battlefield Tactician makes it so that Trip and Sunder deal extra damage when you use them. So even if you're fighting a boss, you can slam down Trip or Sunder and hit for extra damage per level. That is really powerful, an extra burst of hit. That's one of the reasons why when I actually go ahead and use Trip right here, you'll see this acid fog come out, because I'm adding the acid damage to the Trip. Then we have Battlefield Tactician 4, which not only does it add even more damage onto your Trip and Sunder, but it also makes it so that enemies, if they are immune to acid damage and you hit them with the Sunder, well, guess what? Boom. Now they're no longer immune to acid damage, which means you can both allow your damage to penetrate through, but also let's say you want to play a Dragonlord with a friend, and that friend wants to play like a fire sorcerer because they think that's cool. You can go fire Dragonlord, and then whenever you encounter a fire immune monster, you hit it with the Sunder, everything's no longer immune to fire, and your fire sorcerer friend can rip them apart. So it's very, very cool. And as we get to the top here, you just get shorter cooldowns on all of your tactical DCs, so you're going to be tripping, sundering, dragons roaring, everything on the battlefield. Then out of here, we just have some basic stats, nothing really crazy. Stats. Pick up a little double strike. None of this stuff is super important, but it's okay. We get Action Boost Haste. This is the best bonus in the entire game when it comes to damage. You press a button, you attack 30% faster for 20 seconds. It sounds really simple, but once you start using Action Boost Haste, you will become as addicted to it as we all are. It's just, you press button, damage go burr. Feels really, really good. Guarantee you'll like this ability. We talked about the Dragon Roar and the Might in Order already. Then you have Untouchable Soul, which gives you displacement. This means monsters have a 50% chance to miss you all the time. Now, spellcasters have to spend a lot of mana to do this. Dragonlords just get it. Why? I don't know. But yeah, this is broken, so just take this. Then we get Lead the Charge. Lead the Charge is a charge attack. I personally don't love Lead the Charge, but lets you charge forward and just charge to an enemy. It's all right. And then up at the top here, I mentioned before, we have turning your Dragon Roar into a full stun, giving you bonus damage. Flight of Kings, which is like a dash where you grow wings and you fly through the air. Very cool. And then lastly, the bread and butter, and the reason why we use our falchions and greatswords, Conqueror, which gives bonus critical multiplier. A falchion is a high crit threat range weapon, so it crits all the time, but it doesn't do a lot of crit damage. This gives you a lot of crit damage. Highly recommend. Stalwart Defender is a tank tree, and not something I would recommend you invest heavily in on a Dragonlord, but it is nice to have some of these extra abilities. The Stalwart Defense Stance allows you to gain a whole bunch of extra physical and magical resistance rating, which just reduce the percentage of damage you take from all attacks, which is really, really nice. On top of that, you can get upgrades as you level up. For example, you can get strong defense, so your Stalwart Defense Stance actually gives you strength on top of that. So you're getting a defensive stance that's giving you more damage. Remember what I said about strength and how good strength is. So there's a lot of good stuff in here. Generally, this tree is almost exclusively tank stats, and all of them are good. In fact, if you want to play a tank fighter, well, I wouldn't recommend you play a tank Dragonlord because they're not proficient with shields. But if you want to play like a tank fighter, generally, you can take everything in this tree and you'll be pretty satisfied with it. I do love me some tank fighter, and in the beginner basics, you can find under fighter a tank fighter guide to follow if you're very interested in Stalwart Defender. And then lastly, we have the fighter version of Ravager, and this tree is really, really interesting. Basically, Ravager is all about doling out extra flat damage, so you get stuff like melee power here. Every point of melee power is 1% damage, so this is just a 5% damage bump, and you get more of them as you go, picking up even more melee power as you get higher level, even more melee power, even more melee power. Actually, these two don't give melee power. I thought they did. Well, you get all the melee power down here. But on top of that, you also get bonus damage onto your power attack. So when your power attack gives you more damage. You get action boost bonuses, a bunch of special attacks if you want, like Hate to generate more threat, or Slaughter to just hit a guy for double damage. It's just a button you press and it's just double damage every 12 seconds, which is pretty sweet. And then you crit, and now you get double damage on a crit. It just starts going crazy really fast. The big payoffs out of the tree is, unlike the Dragonlord, which gets the Conqueror, +2 to critical threat multiplier. Instead, you get to pick up critical rage, which gives you +2 threat range with all of your weapons. So here, instead, this is where you'd maybe want to go Great Axe, maybe go Maul, because those weapons have higher critical multipliers, and you're expanding out your threat range with that. And as I mentioned before, you have the big top ability here, Visage of Terror, where you scare people so bad, they instantly die. Overall, with this character build, you're going to go into Dragonlord and Stalwart Defender, picking up a lot of the good Dragonlord stuff, getting the Stalwart Defender defensive stance because it just reduces a lot of the damage you take, picking up a lot of the good stuff out of Dragonlord, then you're going to grab a little bit out of Ravager, but it's mostly Dragonlord tree, some Sacred Defender tree, and some Ravager tree. Now, as a fighter, you just don't have any magic whatsoever, except for the magic of punching. So we need to solve sometimes the problem of dying. And how do we solve that? Buying magical items from other people that they made with their brain. So we're going to do that by heading into the marketplace. So if you want to get some magical items to prevent you from dying, we're going to head in here and I'll show you where you can get some good stuff. And there's two places you can go to get some equipment to prevent yourself from dying. Number one, if you head over to the right here, you can find a whole bunch of hireling vendors. Now, hireling vendors are great because you can see that they're all individually leveled out, and you can buy hirelings that will help you on your journey, that will heal you when you take damage. So for example, I'm level 7. So I'm going to talk to Kaylessa, the level 7 to 10 hireling vendor, and I can buy a cleric, or I could buy a favored soul. These are generally the healers. Bards sometimes heal, but sometimes they do other random stuff and you can't really control them. So I would definitely pick a cleric or a favored soul. Just make sure you read the contract, because sometimes you might read a character and you might read about Zaghar Everstar, who is committed to disproving those that spurn his race. Zaghar lends his healing talents to any that seek aid, or seek them. So this character is all about healing. He's a healing guy, loves to heal. Zaghar is a big healer, loves healing. But if you read Nimeth, it says, arrogant even towards her allies, Nimeth is nevertheless a potent spellcasting threat. You notice you didn't see the word heal in there? That's because this hireling is programmed differently. It won't heal you because it's too busy killing your enemies. Great hireling, big fan, can recommend, but just keep in mind when you buy a hireling, the cost is basically negligible. You sell one piece of armor, you can buy 10 of these, so don't worry about the cost. Just grab a hireling, summon them in your adventure. You'll be very happy. Just have one in tow and they will keep you alive. But sometimes your hireling dies, or maybe you're playing in a group and they don't really want a hireling to be summoned. The way that you can get extra provisions is by heading up to the special vendors up here in the center of the marketplace. The ones that are the best for you specifically are the potion and the wand vendor. The potion vendor allows you to buy a lot of generic healing potions. So you can buy like Cure Light and Cure Moderate Wounds, as well as status removal potions, curse removal, disease removal, blindness removal. You don't want to have someone cast blind on you and then your screen turns off for 2 minutes because you didn't buy a blindness potion. Keep 1 or 2 in your inventory. You'll thank me later. On top of that, you can also buy stat potions if you don't have a stat item yet. Remember how I mentioned how strength is really, really important and you got to have a lot of strength? Well, what if you don't have a strength item and you're level 7 like I am? Buy a potion of bull strength and get yourself some strength until you get that item. Additionally, from the wand vendor, there isn't a terribly large amount of wands you can buy, but because you have some use magic device, you could keep a Cure Light Wounds wand in your inventory in case an ally gets injured so you could heal them. But more importantly, you have access to the Wands of Shield. Shield prevents you from being hit by a magic missile, which doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but magic missile can get very dangerous in the higher levels, and someday you're going to die to magic missile and go, oh, Strimtom said buy a wand, so you'll come back here. So this is where you're going to grab that. However, bear in mind, Stormreach is a very big place, and I encourage you to explore around, but one other shop I will recommend is in House Tarasco here. Inside House Tarasco, you can find Featherfall's Apothecary, and Featherfall's Apothecary also contains even better potions and different kinds of potions for your journey, like stronger healing potions, but as well as battle potions, things to prep you in case you're gonna go into like a big dangerous fight. So if I talk to Quolish Ren over here, he's got Cure Serious Wounds, which are bigger. These can be used at level 1. They just have like a more expensive cost, so maybe you can't afford them right away, so keep that in mind. But he also sells 2 types of potions that I absolutely adore. Potions of Heroism, which gives +2 to your attack rolls, which is nice, lets you hit way more often, as well as plus bonus to your saving throws, so you get hit less often. But you also get Potions of Haste, which increase your attack speed. So you're getting 15% attack speed from a Potion of Haste, and the extra 30% attack speed from the Action Boost Haste, which stack together, and oh wow, you feel really good. Attacking 45% faster, you're swinging that sword all over the place. It feels amazing. So when you're looking for gear, what sort of stats should you be looking for? Generally, you want strength items, you want constitution items, you want items that increase your hit points, you want items that give you bonuses to physical and magical resistance ratings so you take less damage, you want items that give you double strike, because double strike is you have a chance to strike twice. It's pretty cool. Anything that gives you melee power is also nice. Anything that boosts your saving throws is good. Fortitude, reflex, or will, you can't really go wrong with. And then anything that hits the main stats of your attack. So that is accuracy for attack bonus. That is deadly for damage, or damage. It's either deadly or damage depending on the item. That is seeker, which increases your critical damage. And then that is deception, which increases your sneak attack damage. Sneak attack applies as long as the monster isn't attacking you, which means sneak attack will be applying a lot more than you might think. The last set of stats you want to look for is, of course, your tactical DCs, either by picking up separate items that give bonuses to Sunder, Trip, and Stun, because you want all of them, or if you can pick up an item that just gives bonuses to all of them, called, it's like Tactical Mastery, I believe, that gives bonuses to all 3 of them, and then you can just kind of roll with one of those. But overall, that's pretty much all of the stats that you are looking for. The only other extra stat I would also throw in there is a stat called Healing Amplification. If you mouse over your hit points here, you can see that there's Healing Amplification positive. Getting Healing Amplification will just increase the amount of healing you get from all sources, which means if I have 100 Healing Amplification, I get 100% increased healing. So my second wind, which normally heals for me for half, actually heals my whole health bar. So keep in mind, Healing Amplification can also be kind of nice. Oh, and then also anything that affects your armor class or your dodge. Those are also good stats to look for. If you need a recommendation also of what stats, if you're like, oh, you're thinking about it, you don't know exactly which stats you need, there is in the beginner basics document a gearing guide that has like what stats are kind of like the premier ones you want to look at, so you can also use that as a point of reference. All right, so now lastly, we're going to go over the actual physical written build here, and I'm going to do a quick walkthrough. Again, race literally doesn't matter, pick whatever you want. I just picked Dragonborn because it's Dragonlord and it looks cool. Strength, max it, con a bit, intelligence no less than 10. Put all your points into strength, tumble, UMD, and then your last points you just put in a jump because you can't put half points at level 20. Outside of this, if you want to play as a single weapon fighter, make sure you're not putting points into something here, so that way you can take balance up to 7 points. But outside of that, you're good to go here. As far as the feats go, we're taking all of the standard fighter feats: two-handed fighting, power attack, weapon focus slashing, weapon specialization slashing, power critical, improved two-handed fighting, improved critical slashing, greater weapon focus slashing, greater two-handed fighting. Again, it's just like more hit, more damage, more hit, more damage, where the feat will immediately explain what it does. It'll be like +2 to damage, +2 to hit, which is great. Additionally, you also take some of the heavy armor feats, which gives a huge amount of defense for using heavy armor. So you can just stack on heavy plate and then slam through enemies, which will be really nice, reducing the damage you take, as well as getting tactical supremacy and mastery, making your tactical hits always land. The auras we grab are Thraxada's Instinct, Vila's Fury for the extra damage, and the Truthful One's Might for the extra melee power. As far as your enhancements go, I have these points spent here in Dragonlord, or Dragonborn, just because I didn't really have anything else to take in the other trees that was good, so we went with the Dragonborn here. But if you play a different race, you can either spend those in those racial tree, or just spend them in one of the trees here. Mostly in Dragonlord, some in Ravager, some in Stalwart Defender. We start out by spending almost all of our points in Dragonlord, right until we get the Battlefield Tactician 3, because it adds a whole bunch of extra damage. Then we go into the Stalwart Defender line, grabbing the Durable Defense, and then Stalwart Defense, the stance, and we turn it on. Then you spend some more points in Dragonlord, picking up the Untouchable Soul, so that way enemies can't really hit you very easily. Some extra bonus stats here and there. Grabbing a few points in the Ravager tree, just because you have nothing to really spend on until later. Then back in Dragonlord, more Ravager, yada yada yada. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy to follow. And then as far as your Epic Destinies go, this character is going to be using Legendary Dreadnought, Fury of the Wild, and Divine Crusader. As of the recording of this video, the Fury of the Wild Epic Destiny Quick Cutter attack is actually going to be getting nerfed. However, it doesn't matter, because the points that we're spending in the tree here for the Spirit of the Beast and one of the other points, which I'm actually going to make an adjustment here by the time this video gets posted, you'll have a slight adjustment here. You actually won't feel it because you'll have all of the things replaced, so don't even worry about it. This character is going to be very, very, very strong. Legendary Dreadnought gives us all the action boost stuff. Fury of the Wild gives you improved trip, which is just super, super good for this type of character. And then Divine Crusader is just for some extra sunder. So your character is going to be a tactical god, ripping people apart on the battlefield. Because Legendary Dreadnought makes it so that with the Sundering Swings ability, your improved trip and your improved sunder attacks, when you hit enemies with them, will cause extra super negative effects. Why trip an enemy when you can trip them so bad they become stunned? Why sunder an enemy when you take off like 10% of its armor class, or 25% of its fortification, when you can take off 75% and basically always do full damage. Really, really cool stuff. So that's it. That is Dragonlord. I love Dragonlord. It is super easy to play. It's super fun. It is just good. I have no really bad anythings to say. I'm gonna keep that in because of how bad that was. But yeah, my God. Anyway, Dragonlord is way easier than it is to talk. You just hit people. You just click on the buttons. Everything is going to die to you. A lot of people worry that because Dragonlord is extremely good, that it's going to get nerfed at some point and it's going to feel bad. But the thing about Dragonlord is it's not overpowered. It just feels good. And I wish more things in DDO just felt exactly like Dragonlord. Like, there's a lot of really good balance in the game. There's a good, a lot of characters that feel good. But Dragonlord is just kind of like a peak character design, and I hope in the future we get more that follow suit, which you might actually see when we get to Dragon Disciple, also a peak character design. So excited to talk about that later. But Dragonlord, it's good through and through, and if you haven't started one today, you definitely should, because this thing kicks ass. Yeah, big fan. Also, I have a R10 ready video for Dragonlord as well. So if you're like, oh man, I like Dragonlord, but Strimtom, I'm not a beginner. I'm a super endgamer, okay? And I have been playing on the highest difficulties for 1,000 years. Do you have anything that is like how to play Dragonlord at the top level? The answer is yes. I do have a build guide for that. Again, you can find it in the beginner basics as a secondary link under Dragonlord. And for the rest of you, if you're like, man, this video is garbage, I hate melees, I want to play spellcasters. Well, did you know that I have a whole playlist of videos that go through all of the beginner basics, and there might be one for you for a character class you find more interesting. But with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy everything you see here. Remember, link to the builds, link to the playlist in the description of this video. And if you're an advanced Dragonlord, you've been Dragonlording all over the place, and you have advice for any new Dragonlords, any hatchlings, please leave your comments below to give people advice on what they can do to improve their Dragonlord play, so that people 7 years from now can look at this video and then find your comment and go, dang, I didn't know you could do that. That's really cool.